Here begins the second half of my conversation with Dawn Wilkes of the Universal Postal Union, the first part of which aired last week. Dawn is the UPU's program manager of the security group. From your point of view, what are the most exciting current trends in strategic and operational collaboration between postal operators and government agencies?
There's a lot of questions in there, so let me start. For me, maybe the current trends in strategic and operational collaboration between postal operators and government agencies varies from region to region and also varies from person to person. So sometimes, for example, you can have an excellent collaboration if you have two individuals, maybe in customs and the post, who know and trust each other and who have been working together for a longer period of time. However, it happens if these individuals leave or transferred, that could cause a complete breakdown in collaborative efforts, which is really quite challenging when you get right down to it, because being dependent on this personal relationship building does often create gaps. And this happens, I think, in all industry, law enforcement, across the board. I know I've experienced it in my career in the States as well. There's examples of cross collaboration which work quite well, and then there are examples of mistrust. So it's very challenging to build a structure and a collaborative atmosphere which everyone is able to have confidence in. And we continue to face these challenges every day, getting agencies to cooperate or collaborate, particularly with data sharing, which we've talked about already, and the privacy and personal information protection issues that many countries deal with on a day-to-day basis present numerous challenges. And sometimes it's not an idea or a not wanting to share. It could be, a national regulation or something that's not allowing it, or it could be an individual personality issue. Maybe that position creates an idea or an illusion of control, which in reality none of us actually have. So, it's definitely better to share and work together and not worry about if someone is maybe taking credit for something that you did. I think sometimes that's a challenge too. People like to have credit. We need to stop worrying about that, and we need to just do the right thing and provide information where it's needed to help ensure the security and safety of our postal employees around the world, our customers, as well as, customs operators, police, transport authorities, airlines. All of this is integral to ensure that there is that trust across industry and not simply individual based. And that is what we struggle with. And I think it's what we struggle with as human beings on a deeper level, because it's hard to come into a position and just trust everyone, because it's an industry. We always build our personal relationships and we count on those personal relationships. So I think it goes deeper than just postal operators and who they work with. I think it's more of a human nature issue, and I don't know how we get beyond that.
Well, you're certainly finding ways to get beyond it, and you also get high marks for taking an extremely amorphous and large question and boiling it down into a very essential and interesting kernel. The business of trust is a theme that comes up in my conversations, as you can imagine, very often, and that notion of putting individual desire for individual ambition and aside, and moving towards doing the right thing as an organization. If there is a silver lining to the dark cloud of recent calamities that have struck us, the pandemic and others, it's perhaps that we can see that our individual ambition may need to take a second seat to to a larger concern about doing the right thing for humanity.
I hope so.
Yeah, it would be nice if that were the case.
Yes, absolutely.
On the theme of collaboration again, what role do international projects like the EU Horizon projects, such as PenCP or Parsec, play in this work of building cooperation and communication? Have you had experiences that have revealed anything to you about the roles and the potential role for these projects?
Yes, a good question. And I do absolutely think that international projects such as the EU Horizon Project, PenCP, and Parsec really play an integral role in building cooperation and communication across the board. For me, projects like these help break down borders, specifically within the EU, to create a more collaborative working environment, as well as bringing together all players in the sector to identify and promote innovative solutions to secure the supply chain. And it opens that conversation up. So there's a lot of knowledge, I think, across stakeholders, but we don't necessarily communicate that knowledge well to each other on an individual basis. So having projects such as these, and particularly this podcast, to help sort of bridge that understanding gap or that divide, that maybe brings these voices together in one place and helps improve that knowledge and sparks that communication and cooperation, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you talked about creating a collaborative atmosphere that might survive the interruption of individual personal relationships, and that done just right, our Horizon project could well help to foster that kind of collaborative atmosphere that the rising tide that floats all boats.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What on a more operational level, how do you go about sharing best practices or new threats, trends across your networks, including at the strategic and working group levels?
Okay. We here at the UPU share best practices on new threats and trends across our network, including strategic and working group level, primarily through the Postal Security Group, which is what I am the secretariat for. And we also utilize our SharePoint, which I mentioned a little bit earlier, and this is available for all security group members after they apply to have access. We also utilize our Postal Security Group meetings, where we like to invite our designated operators, as well as external stakeholders, to provide information or updates on current activities in order to leverage their experience and expand the knowledge of our designated operators and open that conversation and create that link between these external stakeholders to our designated operators to be able to access them on that bilateral basis and communicate as needed to be able to help increase their capacity as they see fit. So we also receive different types of alerts from our partners on items which may be identified in the postal supply chain. And these alerts primarily receive them from INCB and United for Wildlife through electronic means. And then we communicate those through our distribution list that we have for our Postal Security Group members, as well as creating a reference point in our SharePoint portal where we have the archived alerts that our members can research as they see fit. Because I think we all know that emails can be quite prevalent and may not often get noticed. So I do like to ensure that I have an archive of all this information in our SharePoint, and the members are aware of it. And if they're looking for something, then they're able to go directly to that SharePoint and research it themselves if they have an emergency or something. Maybe they're trying to build a program, or they want to understand the different regions that may be having some challenges, or what the most recent trends are from INCB or United for Wildlife. So everyone's different. Every designated operator or customs authority has different challenges or priorities. So I try try to make it as easy as possible for our members to be able to access this information on their own time.
That's incredibly important. I mean, if your members' inboxes or anything like mine, being able to have an easily searchable archive of these alerts is an extremely important resource.
Exactly. That's my feeling too. So hopefully it's working for them. I haven't heard any complaints, but I'm always open to new ideas and new ways of doing things.
That's terrific. I'm sure that openness to new ideas and dialogue with your members is greatly appreciated. Have you had people actively raise concerns or bring up suggestions about things that need to be done in the future?
So we do, as you said, we do try to create that open conversation with our members, particularly within our Postal Security Group meetings and with our chairman. And the most recent has been our illicit goods mitigation topic, as well as road safety. So at our first session of the Abidjan cycle, that's where our Postal Security Group members asked to create these expert teams to look at these issues. So those expert teams are led, the Illicit Goods Mitigation Expert Team, or IGMET, what we call it, is led by the United States of America. And we have other members as well as external stakeholders who work together to create a work plan and structured step-by-step movement forward of how they're going to deal with the issues which they've identified through a survey that we conducted of our designated operators and the challenges which they have on a case-by-case basis. So that's what that team is doing, and that was set up by our members. And then the road safety team is led by Portugal, and they're also working on the same sort of components of a work plan and moving forward to create trainings as well as develop guidance for road safety for designated operators who may not have that in place currently. So it's those are the two aspects that we've heard the most about. But anytime there is something that a member has a concern about, they will usually either bring it up in the meeting or they may reach out to me directly to pose a question to our members virtually, digitally, and try to get a response, on maybe collection box safety or different trends that they're experiencing as far as scam mail. So it could be anything, and I try to remain open because we're here to serve our members and we're here to ensure that we are providing the information that they need the most of.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an incredible challenge to not only to receive or encourage input from various members, but also just the triage and the management of the intake to make sure that the key suggestions, the most useful suggestions, are surfaced in a timely manner and acted on.
Yes, it is quite a challenge because, as you know, we've got our specific set of deliverables as well as, the management of these external funds where we have other components which are in addition to our deliverables and the secretariat aspects of the Postal Security Group meeting and our council meetings. So it sort of builds on each other, and everyone is in the same position that we're the lone individual who's working towards all of these goals. So it's quite a challenge at times to definitely assess the information and act on that which is most relevant at the time for our members.
Mm-hmm. And there's obviously it's a sliding scale. There's usually no one right answer. You have to kind of do the best with what you have, and get with your view of the future. And that kind of brings me to the last couple questions, for today's conversation. I hope we have other conversations in the future. This has just been I can tell I'm just barely dipping my toe in the water of the resources and the work that you're doing. But what for the future and innovation, this podcast really focuses on innovation. What, in your view, from your vantage point, have been the most important innovations in the last few years that have enhanced postal security, and main innovations that the UPU has introduced or deployed in recent years?
Okay. So probably the most important innovations in the past 5 to 10 years. So there, as you know, there's been a lot of developments in AI and analytics. But when we talk about innovations, when I like to look at the world holistically, and very few countries may be able to afford these new technical solutions, such as these
Right.
AI and analytics. So for us, with the pandemic, we saw there was a greater understanding in the necessity of the disaster risk management and business continuity management. And that's definitely not an innovation, but without a security mindset from executive management down, postal operators don't have a chance to secure the supply chain. So that physical aspect is extremely important. And many people are looking at advancements, but if a country doesn't have a stable internet, passable and safe roads, or simple photo identification badges, no technological advancement will improve the security or safety in that country. So to me, it starts with a security mindset and commitment to all aspects of physical security. And that's what's needed worldwide. And then that relationship building. But then we can get into sort of those innovations that can really help the entire world. And what the UPU has done through their Postal Technology Center has, again, created, these customs declaration system to be able to share the electronic advance data between post and customs authorities. And we've also created, they have created what we call our, oh my goodness, I can't even remember what it's called. It's just been deployed in a pilot, and it basically will be able to identify items that have a referral from a customs authority before they exit the facility. So this is extremely important to be able to stop a postal item which may not be allowed in the supply chain. So that's been developed, and that's an innovation which the Postal Technology Center at the UPU has been able to implement within the CDS system or line of products themselves. They're also currently working on, through the external funding provided through the U.S. Tide funds, again, on another, what we call our dangerous goods search tool. So we're hoping to have that analytics platform available to pilot in October of this year. And we know it definitely won't be ready to go in October, but we're hoping to have the pilot ready and be able to get feedback from our external stakeholders, such as INCB and WCO, as well as our designated operators, on how we can continue to enhance that platform and then make it hopefully something that everyone will be able to utilize and have more of an automation in this electronic advanced data exchange and identify parcels that shouldn't be in the mail stream and stop them from leaving the country.
Dangerous goods search tool. That sounds, I realize it's only in pilot at this point, or will be in pilot in October, but that sounds like an extremely promising concept. I mean, how is that just for someone who can't quite imagine how that's going to be implemented? What does that look like to a postal operator who's using it?
So I tell everyone, I have grand ideas of what I think it will be. So I hope the pilot is going to fulfill my expectations. The Postal Technology Center has been working on this for a little over, I think, a year and a half now. It's definitely a very big ask in addition to all the other work that they're doing already. We do have some external consultants which we are utilizing to build this platform, and we have been in discussion with INCB and WCO to help get their feedback, because it's definitely something that we want to have all of our stakeholders involved in, but we're hoping that it will be able to basically take the seizures which have happened worldwide and be able to provide a red lane, green lane for customs and postal operators worldwide to be able to help increase their capacity on an electronic analytics scale instead of an individual looking at each package scale, which we talked about very early in this podcast. So we're hoping that our ideas will come to fruition, and October will be an excellent month for identifying and mitigating illicit goods.
Exciting. I'll be checking back with you in October, end of October, to see how that went, because it does sound like quite a promising innovation. What can you talk a little bit about the other promising innovations that are in your various pipelines, or your biggest innovation needs for the coming year, just blue sky needs for innovation going forward?
Oh my gosh. For me, I think it's not necessarily innovation, because I think we have the basis of what we need to exchange data and work together. I think it's what we talked about before on collaboration and cooperation, and being able to sort of give everyone that carte blanche to cooperate on any security and safety issue as needed, as well as sharing any and all electronic data which deals with or has an effect on security and safety. I think that's sort of the baseline that we need to have around the world, which doesn't necessarily exist everywhere currently.
And that's interesting. I mean, the prerequisites for, as you said earlier, prerequisites for using clever innovation and data analytics and so on are certain baseline things in infrastructure, but also and above all the atmosphere, the human skills, the human sense of cooperation and of sharing information that without which the best innovations in the world are pretty useless. And so in a way that creating that cooperative and sharing atmosphere is a key innovation that you're looking forward to in the future, and you're helping to create with the UPU.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Which brings me to my magic wand question. Which, if you think it's been speculated before, buckle your safety belt. If you could magically change a few things to improve postal security and international cooperation, what changes would those be?
It definitely would be that carte blanche approach where everyone is able to provide that information on security and safety aspects for postal items that are in the mail stream that you're able to share, and you're not worried about any reprisals or issues with conflict of your national regulations or so forth. And it's across the board, that sharing with, postal operators in different countries and customs operators and civil aviation authorities, national law enforcement. It's complete and total cooperation and collaboration on all of this information. Mm-hmm. That's what it is for me.
Yeah, that is the perfect starting point for really for driving change. And I'm just wondering, just thinking out loud, given that the barriers to cooperation and to sharing quite often are structural, I mean, laws, regulations, as you say, do you have a sort of a user's guide for your members to say, look, these sorts of laws, these sorts of office politics, these sorts of regulations typically cause interruptions in sharing and a less than optimal cooperative atmosphere? Try to work on those, or is that just too vague to be useful?
So we have quite a few guidelines in place, which are available on our website, and they are in transport, customs, and security. So that's all available to our members. And a lot of our guidance material does cite developing relationships with your customs authority. It's important to know who your civil aviation authority is and meet with them on a regular basis. So we don't necessarily say what's bad. We try to focus on what's good and encourage those positive tools and relationship building within the guidance material.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's clearly focusing on the good and not beating people over the knuckles with a ruler is probably a good point of departure.
Yeah, we try to lead people in the into the best path forward, and not push, just to sort of suggest.
This has been a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much, Dawn Wilkes, Program Manager of the Security Group at the Universal Postal Union, for sharing your insights and your incredibly important and impactful work, and your observations on the evolution of postal services and customs in the future.
Thanks so much, Tom, for having me. I really appreciate it, and it was great to speak with you today.
You've been listening to Pushing the Envelope, Life at the Cutting Edge of Customs Innovation, a podcast that profiles leaders in customs and postal sector stakeholders and their views, ideas, and inspirations about the future of customs and postal innovation. Join us soon for our next Pencast and another insightful conversation with customs trendsetters and forward thinkers. Thank you.